Star Fox, Emma, glad you're feeling better. Are you going to talk at all about Harris's genocide groceries answer from the town hall? A little surprised you didn't talk about it at the start of the show. Love y'all. Left his best. Hi, Bumbler. I mean, I didn't talk about it because it's the same answer that she's given for 2 months.
Yeah,
so,
we mentioned that.
I mean,
there's been no change, no movement.
I thought about it, but it's just like, okay, she did say maybe she had stronger language about how horrible it's been, but I mean, I don't want to...
More aggressive bearing of witness. Okay,
yeah,
great.
exactly. And then it just, I get so frustrated. I'm watching it last night, just the passive language. But, how these massive campaigns work is they go to J Street, which is a liberal Zionist organization. Republicans are getting their talking points from AIPAC. Democrats are getting it from J Street, which, I think is basically an anachronism as a group. And they copy paste, and she says the same things over and over again. And I don't think that's going to change until election, for a while, if not past election day.
I mean, it should have changed earlier. And like now I would look, if she came out with exactly what I want the policy wise now, I would say like better late than never. But I don't know like what effect that has on the election at this late. Like Humphrey did it in September 30th. And like once we're past that point, I just don't expect any move. I think she's absolutely in autopilot on that issue.
Yep.
And that's horrible
Yep.
as it gets worse and worse.
It's horrible. Spank Me Kamala says, we have now funded the genocide for more than a year. I think the U.S. deserves to get attacked while Palestinian Houthis and Hezbollah will be driven with sense of revenge. Okay. Well, look, I mean, deserves. I don't think any.
We are provoking attacks against us.
Yes.
I would just say that.
No civilians deserve to die. Deserve is the wrong word for it. But in terms of 9/11 was clearly the result in many ways of our policies.
The allergy to chickens
East.
coming home to roost sort of rhetoric is one because you can't actually defend what we're actually doing that provokes violence against American civilians. So you just have to say, well, you're defending terrorism then.
Right.
Well, I mean, because it's an inevitable consequence of our, of neocolonialism, of settler colonialism, of our foreign policy, which is rooted in imperialism, that those chickens will come home to roost. And so a big part of the mythology in countries like the United States of America that engages in that kind of activity, same with Israel, is that any attack on Americans, civilians, or even military in a lot of cases, we do hear a lot of stories from the wives of militaries, the survivors of veterans that, while you can't say that they're not combatants, you can still, try to engender an overly, I think, unrealistic sense of sympathy for them in the populace where it's like, oh, well, when our soldiers died, it's basically just as bad as when our civilians died. And we've seen this with Israel counting of casualties, too, that they will just count soldiers as though they're civilians. But my larger point is that violence as a result of our own actions or just any decontextualized violence, which is obviously a result of our own actions, has to be presented as morally reprehensible and literally impossible. And it's not until the literally impossible is violated, that sort of bubble of of course you'll always be safe. And why would anyone want to attack us, that they start to really push to well, actually it's morally reprehensible that anyone would attack us regardless of what their reason is. In fact, we can't even talk about what their reason is. Because otherwise people would be against it. More people would be against our foreign policy if they knew that it would result in obvious retribution against us. If forgetting the fact that it's
cultivating
not right,
violent hatred.
Exactly.
Yeah, they would be against it. More people would be against it if they thought that it would actually have consequences. But
exactly. I mean, and that's, I think, that informs also how Israel is responding to October 7th. I mean, the genocide that they're committing is also a way to say hey, any kind of blowback that we receive for our repression and our apartheid, we will meet it 400 times over.
It's justifying further violence by us.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing is it really amazes me that there are still people that don't understand that or are childish about this, and there are a lot of people because I remember when I first started getting interested in politics really was prior a little bit to the Obama campaign in 2008, and I was a huge Obama fan when I was 14 going into that campaign. But prior to that, I remember being told over and over again as a kid, they hate us for our freedom. They hate us for our freedom. Even and that I would ask questions at school, and that's the answer that you would get from teachers too.
Because they're savages, which is the farther sort of between
Exactly.
the lines of that sort of implication.
And then, I'm 12 or whatever, and you start to go on the internet and read about things, and you're like, oh, wait, maybe this was more than just they hate us for our freedom. This was because of X, Y, and Z, because of our foreign policy, and it's quite easy. I'm 12. That was a formative moment in my political education. The fact that people still haven't been curious enough to think about what we do in the Middle East and how it has consequences, that part does depress me a little bit, because it's really not that hard to find.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.